G'day guys, Javier here coming at you with another video for the 2019-2020 season. Only a few days away now before it all tips off and before it all starts, so I thought I'd better get my pre-season predictions in. So without further ado, let's get into them. My pre-season predictions for the entire league for the 2019-2020 season. We'll start off with my NBA champion, and my NBA champion this season I think will be the Los Angeles Clippers. A really deep team coming out of the West, two capable two-way stars in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, willing defenders as well. Paul George occasionally has some shooting worries there, but Kawhi Leonard capable of carrying the team. And I think obviously seeing them come out of the West is going to be big as well. A lot of matchups there and a lot of issues to deal with in the West, so it'll be interesting to see how they perform. Eastern Conference champion for me, they will be facing the Milwaukee Bucks. I have the Bucks as the number one seed coming out of the East, as you would have seen in my conference video, and I really don't think that's going to change too much either. Obviously, there are a couple of candidates there. If Brooklyn are able to put it all together, if Philadelphia is able to put it all together, I think they will be big candidates as well. But for me, coming out of the East will be the Milwaukee Bucks. So moves on to the individual awards, and I'm going to say that my MVP is going to be Kawhi Leonard, leader of the Los Angeles Clippers. He's already going to have a burden early with predictions saying that Paul George is going to be out for the first 10 games of the season. And for me, Kawhi Leonard on his night is probably the best player in basketball. He's one of the elite, if not the best defender on the perimeter in the league. He's one of the best scorers in the league. Not many people realise the versatility Kawhi has on his scoring ability. Can shoot the mid-range jumper, can shoot the three-point shot, can get inside, can really play a well-rounded game. And many people sort of mistake that for the simple fact that he is predominantly a defender. The big question there is, can Kawhi get the games he's going to need to play over 70 games this season? There's no doubt about it. Potentially up to 75 games if he's going to be a chance. If he plays any less than 70, I don't see him winning the award. Not sure who will win it outside of him as well, but I feel this is going to be Kawhi's chance to really cement himself as an MVP in this league. Probably should have had one in 2016-17, although Russell Westbrook did win that year with the 30-point triple-double. But to me, Kawhi Leonard has to be the MVP favourite heading into the season. My Defensive Player of the Year is none other than Anthony Davis. AD, the last time he was on the court for a full season in 2017-2018, to me, probably had the best season out of anyone and was probably the MVP of the season as well. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do next to LeBron James. Everyone has to pretty much adapt to the way LeBron plays. That's just a fact of life. There's no changing that. So he's going to have to work really hard to adjust to his game there. He wants to be a bit more of a stretch four, but has the ability to go inside as well on the offensive end. Defensively, capable as well. 2.5 blocks, 1.5 steals is, a pretty decent night for him and something he's quite capable of doing. He's just going to have to be really versatile and really agile defensively because he's going to probably be covering more than just his own man on this Lakers team. But again, this is a Lakers team that if he's fit and firing, there's no reason why they can't be a top 2 seed in the West and potentially take that one spot as well. But for me, Anthony Davis's defensive capabilities and how much he's going to be relied upon for the Los Angeles Lakers is going to see him Defensive Player of the Year for the 2019-2020 season. So comes the Sixth Man of the Year award, and there's probably going to be a lot of contenders there. Your Lou Williams is usually up there and the likes. But I think the Clippers are just going to run really well as a roster, and I really don't see them having to rely upon someone to solely deliver off the bench. For me, the guy who's going to have to deliver, playing a vital role if he's not going to be in their starting lineup, which I really don't project him to be, for me, is going to be Fred VanVleet of the Toronto Raptors. Had a massive final series, averaged around 16 points a game, and he came off the bench and had massive baskets, massive points. To me, he's going to be the absolute factor and the absolute reason for them to really continue to make runs towards the playoffs there up in Toronto. Playing back up to Kyle Lowry, playing second fiddle to a Pascal Siakam. He's going to be crucial in his scoring and ability to hit big shots off the bench in the 2019-2020 season. Don't think there's a reason he can't continue form from the finals. Had a massive impact there, so I reckon he can continue that form, bring it over to the 2019-2020 season, and thus be the Sixth Man of the Year. My most improved player on the season is going to come out of Boston for me. It has to be Jason Tatum. This has got to be a gangbuster breakout season for him. He has no choice He had an okay rookie season, had a very quiet last season, really needs to step up. He had games and showed prosperity at times last year, but he's going to have to up that scoring. He's got to be a 20-point per game scorer with ease. It can't be just one of those things that he just gets to. This is a guy who needs to be pushing 22, 23 points a game. He's able to grab rebounds, can facilitate a little bit. A good athlete as well, so should have no excuses on the defensive end either. And he's going to be a key cog for Boston as well. I actually don't see Boston making the playoffs at this point before the season has started. Now, things could change. If he's going to really turn it on and work well with Kemba Walker, who knows, Boston could go places, but I just don't see it happening at the moment. However, I do feel Jason Tatum is going to lift his game, and it will be through no fault of his own or Kemba Walker's if they do play to that standard. If they don't make it, it is simple. Boston just don't have the firepower to really try and compete with some of the top teams, and that could essentially be what costs them. However, I do feel Jason Tatum is due for a breakout season. It's really a must season for Jason Tatum, and to me, that is why he will be the most improved player for the 2019-2020 season. Rookie of the Year, no surprises here, Zion Williamson. Do I really need to say anything else? He's going to be my Rookie of the Year, for the 2019-2020 season. Coach of the Year is probably going to surprise a few people. I'm going to go with Nate McMillan of the Indiana Pacers. I thought Coach McMillan's had a great couple years. He's really moulded that Indiana squad to be tough, to be defensive, to really fight out basketball games. Was pretty unlucky, in my opinion, not to get it last year. Worked really hard with that Pacers lineup. Thought he probably should have got it considering the injuries and the lack of consistency out of some of that lineup. But the Pacers were still able to get wins, still able to push through and make the playoffs as well. So I think that he's due to be rewarded for his efforts, and it'll be interesting to see Victor Oladipo back in the lineup. Domantas Sabonis really going to have to play a key role there as well. So to me, if Nate McMillan can get the Pacers into the playoffs, if he can get them performing, and someone like a Victor Oladipo and a Domantas Sabonis are really going to gel with one another, for me, there's no reason why Nate McMillan can't be the 2019-2020 Coach of the Year. I'm going to roll through just a couple of surprise teams and a couple of bust teams here. I'll try and brush over these reasonably quickly. In the Eastern Conference, I feel the team that's going to surprise everyone, as I just mentioned, will be the Indiana Pacers. They don't have too much going for them outside of their starting lineup, but I just think the way they're playing, the way Coach McMillan really works them, we'll see them push into the playoffs, and will certainly surprise some people. A lot of people don't pay attention to Indiana. No one really paid much attention to them before they started making playoff runs, before Oladipo was traded there, before they really pushed LeBron James to 7 games in the 2018, along with the Cavaliers in the 2018 playoffs. So I think this is going to be another big year for Indiana, and I think they're going to shock a few people. I've got them listed there around that 7th, 8th seed mark of the Eastern Conference, but to see them go higher would not be a surprise, and I can see them doing that. There's no doubt about that if they can gel and click. They could be a shock team. They could surprise everyone and stay around that 4th seed mark. Who knows? I personally don't see it happening. I just think there's a couple of rosters in the East that probably just have a little too much depth for them to compete with. But nonetheless, with the way Indiana plays, with the way they're coached by Coach McMillan, with the way guys like Victor Oladipo can play, there should be no reason why they shouldn't surprise everyone. And to me, will be my Eastern Conference surprise packet for the 2019-2020 season. My Western Conference surprise packet is going to be the Utah Jazz. Probably doesn't sound far-fetched when you really look at it. They've added some pretty good roster depth there in Bogdanovic, along with Mike Conley. But again, they're going to have a Dante Exum who's going to be back fit and healthy. You've got Joe Ingles there in the squad. You've got Donovan Mitchell there in the squad. And you also have a Rudy Gobert as well. And to me, if they can really start clicking, I think they're going to shock a lot of people. And they're going to fly under the radar with a lot of the big signings that have been happening in the East and the tandems that have been happening as well. From the 3-and-D aspect, they're probably the best-looking 3-and-D team going at the moment. This is a side that has had a respected history throughout their history in the league and as a franchise. A couple of trips to the finals, multiple conference titles. It's going to be interesting to see where they go. They are generally a competitive squad and certainly have been the last couple of seasons. And for me, there's no reason why they can't continue to really push themselves in the Western Conference, and certainly why they can't surprise a lot of teams. So to me, in the Western Conference, I should say. So to me, it should be sort of a no-brainer here that the Utah Jazz will be my Western Conference surprise of the 2019-2020 season. Now I'm just going to run through a couple of teams to finish off that I think will really bust out and be really disappointing. they're going to start in the Eastern Conference here, and to me, that's going to be Washington. Honestly, they've only got Bradley Beal and Isaiah Thomas, and it's going to be a matter of whether Isaiah Thomas is healthy as to how much he helps out of Bradley Beal. John Wall, all but confirmed to be out for the entire season with his Achilles issues, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, who they can bring in to back them up and how they deliver as a squad. But Washington, for what the promise the promise that was showed with Beal and Wall early, to just where they're fallen away, I picked them to be a bust last year, and they delivered on that as well. And again, I just think they're going to continue to disappoint people. For the side they should have been and what they could have been as a squad, they really haven't delivered on that, really haven't kicked up a fuss. John Wall, a lot of people are high on him. I mean, he's started to become a bit of a locker room cancer in a sense that there's just seems to be a lot of disagreement. He doesn't seem to gel with star players. He makes it a lot about himself. So him being injured might improve the situation in a sense, but at the same time, you're trying to work with an Isaiah Thomas who's under 6 foot and a Bradley Beal who, albeit wanting to be a two-way guard, isn't the most efficient player on the floor either. So to me, I don't see Washington doing too much, and to me, they're going to be my Eastern Conference bust of the 2019-2020 season. Finally, I think my Western Conference bust is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've got Chris Paul, veteran point guard, legendary point guard. Some would say one of the better defensive point guards the league has ever seen. 9,000 assists. The guy's had multiple seasons where he's been in MVP candidacy, and he's a bit long in the tooth now. Had some issues there in Houston and really on a bad contract. They've got Roberson who can really defend. They've got Steven Adams who can grab some rebounds, but I don't see them doing too much. They're a real mixed, odd bunch there. They're going to be bouncing off the Westbrook era, which finally shuts the door from where Durant and him joined. So, there's over 10 years of history out the door there. Paul George has left. He's gone to the Clippers. And the general firepower that you feel like OKC could have just doesn't seem to be there. I can't really put my finger on it. And I don't see them doing, in my opinion, really doing too much in the Western Conference. And to me, they're just going to bust out. I wouldn't be shocked to see Sacramento finish higher than them. I can see Sacramento potentially pushing to the playoffs if their roster's able to stay together, but I just don't see OKC doing anything at all with the roster they've got. And I just think they're going to bust out. I think it's going to be really disappointing, and for a lot of Oklahoma City Thunder fans and former Sonics fans, I think it's going to be really disappointing to see a franchise that was competitive, a perennial playoff contender under Westbrook, a finals and a conference finals contender with Kevin Durant there. You go back to the days of Gary Payton and Sean Kemp where they're winning 60 games and pushing to the Western Conference finals and the NBA finals there once in 96 as well. It's going to be really disappointing, and I just think it's going to start to fall away to the wayside here, and they're going to have to really reassess Oklahoma City potentially not only as a team and a roster, but maybe even a market as well if they don't really start getting too much out of it. So it's going to be an interesting season, and I just feel that OKC is going to be the bust of the Western Conference in 2019-2020. Anyway, guys, that's been me. Thank you very much for tuning in to my preseason prediction video. Hit me up on Facebook. Give me a like at JB's NBA. Hit me up on Twitter, Justin_G_Brian, always talking hoops and other things over there. Hit me up on YouTube as well, Justin Brian. We can subscribe and see some other content I've produced in previous years and previously on YouTube. And you'll also get, content like this, basically working across those two platforms and my Twitter as well. So be sure to check that out, give that a subscribe, and sort of keep up to date with everything that's happening. Anyway, guys, that's been me. I'm out.